guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Life Advice with Audrey Wrights. I wanted to do a quick message today. I honestly was thinking that I would start back on the discussion of boundaries and self-control, kind of like where I left off from last week. However, while I was scrolling on Twitter, I came across a post from someone that said, let me make sure I can remember this correctly, but it was basically saying, I hope my next partner is better than the last, essentially. And so I was like, my immediate response, because I did reply, was, well, thankfully or luckily, you have the option to choose, right? And so I think a lot of times when we get into relationships, especially if they end up really bad, we automatically assume that it was some divine reason why, this person was chosen for us, or we had to go through this terrible experience or life experience or trial just so we can learn a lesson. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't occur. Sometimes it does. And typically when we have lessons like that, is to reinforce what we've already learned, right? So it's a test essentially to see if we're going to go back into the same rhythm or space that we were trying to get out of. But when I viewed it, I was essentially thinking about the fact that we do have the option to choose who we're with. And a lot of times we don't accept responsibility for choosing poor partners and and people who we don't relate well with, get along well with, that we tend to stay in relationships with. So essentially, yes, we would all like for our next partner to be better than our last partner, but there's a fundamental level of accountability that I think that we often lack when we are going into relationships, right? Or coming out of them. Like, we don't realize that we also played a role in that relationship's demise, whether that would be recognizing that it's not going to work and we need to check out, whether that be acknowledging that we had higher expectations and it's, not going to work out because that's just not what we're getting in return, or that we need to be more realistic and accepting of the person, because that's not fair to them to have unrealistic expectations. But it could be a number of reasons, right, why a relationship doesn't work out. However, again, I think that there is essentially a fundamental level of accountability that we typically don't like to accept. When our relationships go wrong, we like to say, oh God, for those who believe in God, send me somebody better, or make the next one have all these things. But we miss the fact that we chose that person, we chose to stay with that person, essentially, and we do have the power to choose who we're with and who we stay with. Because even if you initially made a choice to be with somebody and you recognize that you chose to try it, go there and see if it works. But as soon as you recognize that it's not going to work out, that choice at that point is for you to say, I don't want to waste my time. I know this is not going to be what I need it to be because I see all these red flags, and I'm going to move on. Instead of sticking around, staying 2, 3, 5, 10 years with someone until they learn their lessons or learn whatever they need to learn so they can be better for you, you want to stick around and wait on that when you probably should just leave, give each other time separately to grow and become who you guys need to become for a better relationship. And then maybe you can circle back around to each other and it'd be a relationship better than what you thought it was going to be before, right? But you didn't waste your time waiting on that person to evolve into something that he or she may or may not evolve into. If that makes sense. So essentially, I just wanted to take some time to just kind of have a discussion about the fact that you do have the choice and the power to choose, I should say, who you're in relationships with. So the demise or the downfall of that relationship is also a reflection of your choice. It's also a reflection of you being able to analyze and assess through conversations with that person, through observations of that person, whether they are good for you. And not just seeing what you want to see, but seeing what they're showing you and acknowledging that based on what you're shown and what you observe, that this may or may not work. It's about being honest with yourself about that. Because I think a lot of times, especially if maybe our partner is way more attractive, or they're super smart, or they have a lot of money, we try to, or financially sound, I should say, we omit certain things that we've observed and that we see or what we're shown, because we want to say, oh, well, this outweighs this, or I can stay until they get it together because of this. And that's really not the right mindset to have when you're in a relationship or seeking a long-term relationship. Essentially, that is a selfish ideology that you should not apply to any type of relationship, because then it goes into you focusing on more of what that person has or can do for you versus that person being the best thing for you and you being the best thing for that person. Okay, so again, I don't want to take too much time, but I just saw that tweet and I was like, let me do a quick little message about this. And the next time I come back, obviously I want to pick back up off of the prior discussion, going into discussing boundaries and self-control. But again, I just want everybody to kind of be mindful that you have the power to choose who you're in a relationship with, and you have the power to discontinue a relationship that is unhealthy. You have the power to leave whenever you realize or acknowledge that that relationship isn't benefiting you or the other person. And you have a right to hold yourself accountable for that choice. You don't get to just say, okay, well, this relationship is no longer serving me, so I'm just, or even though I'm not being helpful to this person, they don't want to leave, so I'm just gonna stay. That's selfish. That's inconsiderate, and obviously that relationship is not gonna work. But when it ends, you're gonna find yourself continuing into a series of relationships that ultimately feel the same way, because you're lacking self-accountability and you're not growing and evolving from that. So I know it's easy to look at someone and say they're extremely attractive, or they have all these things, and they can do all these things for me, but those things don't make a healthy relationship. Those things essentially won't make you happy emotionally, physically, and they might financially, or aesthetically, but there's still other components that you need to consider. And we also should be trying to be extremely thoughtful, not only for ourselves, but for another person. Because when you're in a relationship, or when you agree to being in a relationship, you're no longer just thinking for or about yourself. You should also actively be considerate of someone else. So again, if you're one of those people who are just getting out of a relationship, or in a period of singleness, which I hope you're working on, some things during that time for yourself, and trying to evolve and grow. But if you find yourself in one of those scenarios, just know that you have the power to choose who you're with, and you should be more thoughtful of that moving forward, so that you don't find yourself in relationships where that aren't, I guess I should say, that aren't benefiting you or the other person. Okay. So with that, I do actually have a couple of blog posts that I have discussed this in. So I will be sure to put that in the description of this. And I think the description is located underneath the video. If you click like the down arrow next to the title, then you should be able to see the description and you'll be able to see all the links. Also, we'll have my website, of course, which you guys have access to my email. You can also like, share, comment questions, but you can email questions if you want them to be more private. And I am happy to have a discussion with you to give you some more individualized guidance if that's what you prefer. I do that from time to time with some family and friends. So I'm not opposed to doing it. But again, I need to be very clear that yes, I am a PhD student in psychology, but I am not a licensed professional. So I want to make sure to remind you guys of that. And while I do give exceptional advice, at this point, I don't want you guys to think of it as a clinical or formal counseling and therapy. That's not what I'm trying to set up here. I just kind of wanted to be more conversational. I wanted to be those for the information I'm sharing. I really wanted to be for those who are taking individualized approaches to evolving, that want to learn from others' experiences, for example, me. So I'm sharing what I know. I'm relating it to psychology in layman terms so that everybody can understand. And yeah, I think it's important for us to learn and grow together from that. So again, next week, I'll try to come back with boundaries, with discussing boundaries and self-control, if I can get the blog posts and stuff done and everything out in a timely fashion. So you can look forward to those in the coming weeks. Again, check out the blog, www.audreywrites.com. And I thank you guys for sitting on my couch with me today and having a discussion. But I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.